I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zeiss Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Welcome everyone to Linda's Adventures, Skull and Shackles, Part 4. The fourth part.
In which we resume the tale of our not quite heroes on the high seas.
Our band of lovable misfits. Free Captain Rin Ilium, the swashbuckler, and younger sister of the shaman and lookout / whatever mental ability score position he has to do that day, Hector Ilium, who's the shaman of the waves. Rin is very, very devout to Besmara. Hector is very Besmara skeptical, but does not know that his waves spirit is actually Besmara. Hector and Rin each have a familiar. Rin's familiar is Ferusa, the Coral Capuchin, and Hector's familiar is Pontus, the Tidepole Dragon. Then we've got Ty, or Antiope, who's Rin is short for Mirani, and Ty is a brawler who's the master gunner of the flagship and one of the main characters of the game, who likes to generally kick butt.
Mm-hmm.
And
use the boarding pike of OP.
Yeah, just because we have that, but she likes fighting unarmed. And we decided eventually she's true neutral and not neutral evil or chaotic neutral, but we weren't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then two other characters.
Yes, we have Tethys Kybali, a tiefling harrowed medium, who is also a false medium by trade, and is a tall tale teller and compulsive liar. And then Aram Wetfoot, a rather shy halfling hydrokineticist who, while he might rather stay in the background, does take quite a bit of pride in the way that his abilities can do things like sink ships down into pits in the water and work perfectly well underwater when most things don't.
He's the only siege weapon we actually need.
Yeah, he is.
We don't want to harm our ships that we're about to take control of.
But if you use the Aram siege weapon, he can targetedly attack only the people on the ship until they surrender. And
or sink the ship down into a control water sinkhole where they can never escape.
Yep.
Ah! Okay. So
that's the PCs.
Yes, and so Rin is a free captain, even though we have not done anything else in part 3. We just kind of skipped to that point. We finished book 3. We finished book 2.
Yes.
But we're also in the middle of Plunder and Peril and a bunch of other side things, including Razor Coast and Legendary Games that Linda has added in. We're using slow XP to slowly XP our way.
So let's get back to where we were. Let's see. Looks like we
just did
Mancatcher
Cove, which is the last part of book 2 officially.
That is right.
It is right.
Let me grab where we were at here.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the next thing we did here was the Wreckers of the Mirage.
Yes. What was the Wreckers of the Mirage?
Gosh, what was that?
Was that the thing where they left like a illusion, and then we came in, and then the ship was going to attack, and they...
Oh, I think that was...
They wanted us to run into an illusion that was actually like
illusion that was actually reefs that were being covered by an illusion.
That were going to really screw us up, and then they were going to attack us.
Yes.
But we noticed the illusory reefs and did not run into those, and then we attacked them. And I think that the wrecker may have been either what we call the people who want to wreck your ships, or the name of the ship.
The wrecker is what you call the people who want to wreck your ships.
Okay, and the Mirage might have been the name of their ship.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's one of the ones that's in the AP or that you came up with. Was that the ship where the captain was a mage?
Yeah, I think that was that one.
So yes, it was one of the people who was the most persistent in trying to not duel Rin. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, by this point, Rin has celestial armor because we had a ton of money, and the only thing she bought was celestial armor.
Yes.
So she was able to use that to fly because we have very limited spellcasting because that enemy mage was absolutely flying and trying to blast her from a distance with evocation effects. Which did not let her parry and was not ideal for her in a duel, but nonetheless she won the duel thanks to her celestial armor.
And after you did that, the time had finally come to venture into Black Coral Cove, the location where you knew that the treasure that Verosa Lanteri sought was hidden.
So by this point, we had gathered several of the pieces of the treasure ourselves, but Verosa herself had one more piece, which I think was just before the Records of the Mirage. There just wasn't an XP thing associated with it. So what happened was that we were at another port at the same time as Verosa, like shortly before this, because of the fact that, you know, she's around looking in the same places. And she made an attempt to come into our ship and take some stuff, which she epically failed, and we went into her ship and took her piece.
Yes.
Is basically how it worked. So her attempt to steal our pieces was a complete backfire. We took her piece, which was the last piece, and then we were ready at that point, although we did go to that wreckers area on the way because we heard about it, and Rin's like, we have to detour from this giant quest that we're doing.
We have to detour from this giant quest to go into a known trap.
To go into a known trap? Besmara would like that.
Hector disapproved of this plan of action.
We know about the fact that there are wreckers around, so we won't get trapped. Hector, your eyes will be able to spot their trap. Okay, Ren. We'll go to the known trap instead of the treasure. Are you sure this isn't going to give Verosa Lanteri time to, like, get there in advance of us? Of course not. It's on the way.
Besides, we have all the pieces.
What will she do there?
Set an ambush.
Will she do there? Embarrass herself again? Besides, I left her tied up. It's going to take her a while. Because the other thing was that she got caught trying to steal from our ship, and part of the thing that happened was that we disguised as Verosa Lanteri doing, like, ridiculous stuff. That also wound up causing her crew to think that Verosa had, like, been killed. So, we wound up taking her ship as well. It was not good for her, her attempt to kind of...
Don't try to steal from the PCs. They're not... They're pirates.
Or no, it wasn't that she had been killed.
No,
that's not what it was.
No,
it was she woke up drunk without any of her gear.
Yes.
Just, like, woke up drunk naked on the side of the road somewhere. Barely. Yes. After what looked like epically being humiliated.
In a fight,
in a way that was even worse in some ways than when it actually happened to her, because it was illusions / a fake her. But the real her wasn't there to say that didn't happen, because she had already been...
Yeah, the fake her, like, apparently lost in a fight to, like, some really shitty people.
Yep. And really embarrassed herself. And then, so the rest of her crew decided to sign on with us. Whoops. Okay, so she didn't even have a ship. Rin wasn't really worried that she would get another ship and a crew and actually catch up to us. She just thought it was funny. Because Besmara probably thought it was funny, too. So, yeah, we took on the Mirage, and then we made it to the, what is it, Black Coral Cove.
Yep.
Which was supposedly a dangerous place where Jabba Red Claw left her treasure, and that you need those 4 pieces of the key to open Black Coral Cove. We had them now. We could finally finish Plunder and Peril.
Could finally reach The Isle of Gororay, which, like many things around in this area, has Cyclops ruins on it.
If it's got Gora on it and it's not a Goron,
Yes.
it's gonna be a Cyclops. So
this was sort of a former Cyclops military installation, and it had some devious firing eye traps on the front door that I remember I buffed quite a bit. I was saying
was there like a waterfall too?
Yeah. But I remember with those thinking of those traps in video games to just constantly shoot fireballs that you have to try to dodge, and using that as sort of my inspiration for how I changed this trap around. Because normally it's like, oh, it just does a couple of scorching rays, but mine was just like good luck.
What are you gonna do?
Yep. So, and you guys needed to be able to play the different pieces of the key were pieces of an instrument, the 3 reasons to live, that you needed to assemble and play the right tune to be able to open the door.
And the 4th one was, I think, the music score or something like that.
Yeah, I think it may have only had 3 naturally, but I added a 4th because it worked better for the plot. So you guys made it past.
So we played the Ballad of the Windfish with all of the musical instruments.
Yes, you did.
I
do recommend Link's Awakening. It's a fun game.
That was the first Zelda game I played on the original Game Boy.
Yeah, but the remake on Switch is cool. That's the one I played.
Well, you can't press Start Select and then wind up stuck in a weird part of the next screen while you're transitioning screens, so it's not completely the same game.
Yep. So yeah, you guys went into this ancient Cyclops ruin, and like many ancient Cyclops ruins, you were required to contend with Goldalko.
Oh, Goldalko!
The undead Cyclops.
They're always in ancient Cyclops ruins.
Always in ancient Cyclops
ruins.
Actually,
maybe there weren't any in the other ancient Cyclops ruin.
They're usually
They're in many ancient Cyclops ruins.
Well, I mean, if you have a creature that's like, this is an undead Cyclops, and you're putting in a Cyclops
Oh, sure,
ruin,
but you would think that Cyclops ruins are usually just abandoned and there's not any undead in there. Like, for the majority of them.
Yes, but if you want to have encounters in a place that's been sealed for a really long time,
the Pirate Queen is going to ensure that you wind up fighting them.
If it's been sealed for a long time, then your options are undead and constructs, pretty much. And oozes if, like, there's some entry from the outside that like allows plant matter or something else to seep in.
What about shop tea?
Oh, that's legit.
There could be a shop tea in there. They're not an undead or construct.
Yes, well, in most cases, undead and constructs are what you've got, unless it's one of those many ancient ruins that's like just happens to have been broken into recently, so there can both be more creature types.
What about Calicangs? They can go to suspended animation.
Yes, suspended animation, that works too. But in general, when you're doing adventures with places that have been sealed for a while, your options are more limited. So.
What if you encounter fibers that are still fine, like a tapestry after 10,000 years? This 10,000-year-old tapestry depicts people making a tapestry that would last 10,000 years.
Yes. Well, this is one of the things I learned from John Compton with his archaeology background is that you're not going to have bones and wood and tapestries and things like that are lasting for these ridiculous amounts of time since any of the old empires of Galarian, like, ever. So you'll see a lot of things where it's like, and everything is made of stone, and you can still see preservative magic on this room because
yeah, that was something that, like, I knew intellectually but didn't think of every time that I played a game in the same way but it is like a big thing for John. So now because of him, I think of it every time.
Yeah, well, because that was part of one of the things I was taught as a developer was to look at the rate of decay of objects based on where they are and what condition they've been in, and to like think about that so that you don't have ancient books. And you don't have like ancient books that are in this like waterlogged area and somehow still fine.
They're totally fine.
Anywho.
let's do archaeology with pirates by blowing things up.
Yes.
So we fought some Goldakos, and that was okay. They were actually pretty annoying. They had some pretty obnoxious abilities. Generally, our group does amazingly well against, like, humanoid-type foes. And if there's a big monster with annoying abilities, they grapple or knock Taya unconscious, and then we win.
Yeah. And
if they're not a big monster, they don't grapple or knock Taya unconscious, then we win.
And speaking of, and somebody has recently infiltrated this place. In the original adventure, it assumes that, like, because Lanteri got there first, and then you have.
Well, also in the original adventure, you team up with Lanteri to help her get.
But then she backstabs you.
Then she backstabs you.
Yeah, so like Lanteri's people are already in there and stuff like that in the original, but
we had all of her people.
You had them. They were on your side. So I used the the stat blocks that would normally have been used to combat these people as their stat blocks for when they were on the PC side.
Mm-hmm.
Which gave the PCs some more, like, high-level people with specified abilities, which was nice. Because usually when the PCs recruited people, it's like, oh, you're going to be, like, maybe up to a level 3 in an NPC class, but usually, like, a level 1 or 2.
There was some kid from, like, Razor Coast who was
a level 4 expert.
Who had savantism that gave him, in geography, that gave him, like, ridiculous knowledge geography.
Yeah, he was a ridiculously good navigator.
Yep. But we mostly didn't bring those people in here, but we we were worried about how dangerous this was. So we actually brought, Valvarisa and Bethany, the captain of, the original captains of the Ginger Bell, who are Bard and Rogue.
They were 7th or 8th level by this point.
Yeah, we brought them in so we could get the 7th level Bard Wombo combo, which was, plus 2, a move action, plus 2 Inspire Courage, plus a Good Hope. And because of the fact that 50 fireballs kept shooting out at us from the mouth of the thing, so we're like, let's go get Bethany, because she's a rogue. And she has Trap Spotter and Trap Fighting, and is good at disabling traps, unlike anybody in the party.
Well, that was part of why I wanted to make that be a more complex trap there, because I knew that you guys really were not good at disabling traps, and I wanted to see what solution you'd come up with. And
the answer is go get Bethany.
Go get the NPC rogue, which is a very legit solution to that problem.
And Valvarisa's bonuses are always appreciated. Plus, our only spellcaster is not Hector using Arcane Enlightenment to try to provide every spell and the human favorite class bonus of getting cleric spells added to the shaman list to try to provide every spell list possible on one very beleaguered spellcaster.
Yes. So this place had fewer encounters than expected because there weren't the members of the crew to fight against, but you still contended with the stained glass golem and the disco ball golem, which had all the light all around and shining at everyone's faces and blinding everybody. It was not just a
stained glass golem because there was also a bunch of light in the room that it could use to use its blinding ability.
Yes. There were some more swarms because everybody needs more swarms.
Of course we do.
Another one of those...
Fortunately, everybody also needs more Arams.
Yes.
And because kineticists do full damage to swarms.
That's correct. It's there is a sacrificial altar haunt that attempted to get everybody to try to sacrifice themselves on the ancient altar.
Just any kind of altar always has, like, I think that, like, at some point Hector was like, I wonder if that sacrificial altar is haunted to make you sacrifice yourself on the altar. And then
he did ask, and then it was, yes. Because it's just like a meme at this point. Like, is there a suspicious sacrificial dagger lying around?
There's probably a haunt
after thousands
to sacrifice
of years?
yourself on it.
There's probably a haunt.
He was right on the money that time. He's usually wrong when he says some kind of, like, snarky comment about, like, Rin, there's no way that if we just follow this message in a bottle that we'll find the treasure. And then we always find the treasure.
And then
like,
it's
very quickly.
Yes. And when you made it a little bit deeper, you realized that there was something really weird about this place, even more so. Because you had seen the black coral from a distance, but it looked like, oh yeah, there's some coral and things like that. Although, wait. Farusa noticed that there was something wrong with that coral because
she's a coral type of
I
chick.
gave Furusa like a +10 bonus to realize that there was something wrong with the coral.
She's coral lore.
Yeah, well, because like she's a friggin' coral is in the name of her creature type, and
she usually lives in coral.
Usually lives in coral, and that coral was like really screwed up. And
so we identified the coral as being like related to like the excretions of monsters.
Yeah, if it Incatillus, those
little nautilus creatures that attach to the back of your head and then control
and then they puppet your
body
after they kill you. Yeah.
Yep.
So
the weirdest thing about Incatillus, okay, is that it's really, really bizarre. Let me make sure I have this right. So they literally live underwater, and they attack and kill in deep, deep trenches of the deepest trenches of the sea. They attack and kill like big whales and other things to eat them. Okay. But the thing is that they can't get onto land because they're an aquatic creature unless they attach to your skull and go onto land. They can live as bottom feeders. They prefer not to scavenge. They love large sea creatures such as sharks, whales, and sentient ocean dwellers. And they make no distinctions between the living and the dead. They have strong self-preservation and go out of their way to avoid dangerous predators. Okay? So why do they even care about going on land? None of their favorite food is there. They have no actual motivation. It doesn't say like they love killing land dwellers or that like there's something they like that's on land. It's just literally
worse for them.
It's dangerous. If their zombie puppet is destroyed, they have to flee to a body of water. And they live their entire lives in the deepest trenches. But most of them do, and some venture to the border and take control. But there's no reason that they would do this at all in their entire. Sorry, this is just like
a tangent.
About Incatillus because it was really weird.
Well, these ones at least made a little more sense because they're right next to the sea.
Yeah, these ones are in the sea, and this is like their home, and there's a super giant one that we're about to get attacked by.
Yes, there is. So there's this really messed up coral that you guys had to try to like at certain points like it got really thick and you had to like try to squeeze through it. You'd be cut by it, and it's mildly toxic, which I believe is something that I added because it seemed like it should be. And you ultimately reached an area where you started to find some of these Incatilises that were attacking in some of like the side areas. But then you ultimately reached the Black Coral Cave.
Dun, dun,
where there was where you found that there was a shipwreck and that the entire wall had been sealed, that the entire cave wall had been sealed off.
Like the way you would normally go in.
Where you would normally go in.
Was sealed off by the black coral. That was the one where I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what was going on here. We were about to see Gemma Redclaw herself, who was somehow being remotely puppeted by a more powerful Incatillus who doesn't have to attach to you.
Yes.
But here's what I couldn't figure out is the timing on this. Because you've got an area where eventually an Incatillus took over Gemma, right? And there were Cyclops, and the Cyclops already had this windfish ballad that lets you get in, right? They had built that. That was part of the Cyclops deal. Is the wind, but except that you wouldn't have. And it was like very well sealed, and like you're not getting in if you don't have the windfish instruments. Except during the day of the Cyclops, there would not have been black coral and an Incatillus there, so there would have been a giant opening that Gemma Redclaw just sailed through, and that's how her ship fit in. It was just there all the time, so you didn't need the windfish thing. You just go in through the giant opening that was not sealed off by black coral. So like, why did they have that really complicated puzzle lock that the Cyclops built when in their time it was not secure because anybody could sail in?
So the solution that I had decided there, which is also based in part on which rooms were more angular versus not, was that this place had been sealed off and this cove didn't previously connect. but that the connections into the cove were built later.
Yep. That was Linda's thing, is that,
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, the cove wasn't part of it. It was just, it didn't quite go to the cove.
Yeah.
And that works.
Mhm.
But it's just a little bit of like, my characters were, Hector was trying to puzzle out the time frame and when and how everything happened to try to figure out what was going on here. And
Yeah. I
we
think
wound up figuring out that Linda needed to adjust it so that
Mhm.
that was added later, because otherwise it didn't make any sense.
Yeah. And I think what I did then was that, like, those awkward walls were the ones that were also started to be covered by the Incatilla stuff, and that
Yeah.
the Incatilla stuff could eventually dissolve stone over time, and that was part of what had happened with it. But,
Yep.
and then that was related to the toxin.
So anyway, though.
Anyway,
yeah, Gemma Redclaw herself was supposed to be dead.
well, I mean, she is dead,
And
but
she is, because her
she-
dead body is being controlled by a mega Incutillus.
atop her old flagship, and she's got, like, this one arm that's entirely black coral grafted to a blade, and then this other arm that's like this weird red claw.
I mean, weird red claw was not unexpected.
Because she's Gemma
Redclaw, and she's
yes,
known to
true.
have one arm that's a weird red claw. I think it was the black coral arm grafted to a blade that was, like, more surprising.
That's true. So, calcified Gemma Redclaw. And I definitely up-leveled the calcified Gemma Redclaw because the adventure expects that you fight, that you also fight a more challenging calcified Verosa Lanteri here, but obviously there wasn't. So, they fought the calcified Gemma Redclaw, or Celia, the Incatillus Lord, and as well as a variety of other Incatillus minions that had, that's what I did, other Incatillus minions as well that had various members of
the crew.
Of Redclaw's crew,
And
yes.
you used some of the stat blocks that were previously in the
Mhm.
adventure for those other people
Yeah,
that you didn't fight.
and I modified them lightly so that, like, it wouldn't be exactly the same when you use them later.
Right.
Yeah.
But and had those be the
Mhm.
Incutillus puppets of her crew.
That's true. So you guys were so that was like not the world's easiest fight because Incatillus
It wasn't, and they have will saves.
have will saves.
I think.
They have will saves, and that's not Rin's favorite thing.
But they weren't able to really spam the will saves completely because of the fact that everybody who wasn't Rin super focus fired the Incutillus, and she managed not to run out of Charmed Life.
Yes.
Because the little Incutilla, I think, can't just spam will saves on you. The big one can.
Yeah, they have to, like, get onto you. So you were also using some good mobility.
Also, fortunately for Rin, the big one had a horrifically powerful giant breath attack that you may have either added or it already had, which was not the will save thing. So it wanted to use that, which, like, was a better move, but that spared her one crucial will save that, like, because basically as soon as she runs out of Charmed Life, she immediately fails all will saves and fortitude saves.
That's true.
Uh,
But it didn't come down to that because you were able to defeat the puppets of Gemma Redclaw and her crew, and as well as the Incatillus Lord and the Incatilli in this area.
And the spirit of Gemma Redclaw, like, appeared and thanked us for freeing her body or something like that.
Yes. And you were then able to do your favorite part as pirates, which was go into the hold and take her treasure.
Yes.
Because you then found yourself facing a very difficult challenge, and that was that there was a ship right here.
It was not wrecked.
It was not wrecked. That's right. It was not wrecked. It was just it had some damage to it, but it wasn't fully wrecked, and it could definitely be repaired and seaworthy. But there was this giant wall of coral in the way.
It was a pretty good ship. It wasn't like the crappiest kind of ship.
Yeah.
Yep. There was absolutely a giant wall of coral in the way. And it was poisonous.
Yes. So what did you wind up doing about that giant wall of poisonous coral?
Obviously, we got rid of it.
Did you just hydrokinetic it forever, or what did you do to get rid of it?
That was part of it, but also, there's a combination of hydrokinetic blasts with, we had some allies who were able to avoid the poison. So I'm not remembering which ones off the top of my head right now, but It may have been some constructs that we got at the same time as the Jade Bats, if we have the Jade Bats at this point. But at some point, we managed to remove the coral with some poison immune allies and some hydrokinetic, well placed hydrokinetic blast to weaken it in certain stages. And then we just sailed. By then, we had also repaired the ship, which also took some time. And we just sailed Jammer Red Claw's flagship out, and it was now part of our ships.
You guys had a lot of ships by this point. You've had like 8 ships.
At least.
At least.
Every named ship that we named here.
Fleet. You had the fleet of the ships that could move at 60 feet, which were the ones that you actually went around with. And then you had the slower ships, which you had people going around and doing other things with, but they would slow you down on your grand quest for adventure.
Any ship that was slower than the speed of 60, which our Andromeda was faster than that because of being made of dark wood with the Fire She Bears rules. But anything that was slower than that had to either stay at Tidewater Rock to defend Tidewater Rock or go do other things on their own. Low-key piracy.
Yes.
You couldn't be with us going and doing our main thing unless you were at least 60. Yes, to ride the pirates of the Shackles being. So we defeated that Plunder and Peril, which put us at the point where sort of side quests based on
well, you
Razor
jumped
Coast.
you also jumped over into after some of those Razor Coast side quests. I think actually the next
Razor
thing
Coast and Legendary Games.
It seems like the next thing you jumped into here was the Brine Banshee side quest. Is actually from part 3.
Oh yeah.
Where you found out about the you found out that there was a ship that that had a lot of riches on it.
Was
but
that the one that had the magic steering wheel?
Yes.
Okay.
A ship with a lot of riches on it that had gone missing, and you were and that there was a ring of the Iron Skull that would help you find it.
Oh yeah, and this really pompous pirate had the ring of the Iron Skull, who was
Milksop Morton.
Milksop Morton.
Yes.
And there was like a surgeon guy who was the only survivor from because he had like gotten off just before the Brine Banshee. For some reason, he needed to stay at that port, and then the Brine Banshee went off, and just everyone died.
Yes. So I do recall that there was that. Now you needed to get the ring from Milksop. It was now to you to decide how are you going to get the ring from this pompous guy. Were you going to challenge him to a duel? Were you going to use the old Farusa method? Or what other method we used? You guys decided, yeah.
We just stole it from him, and he didn't know who took it.
So they decided to go with the Farusa method.
Yep.
Farusa being the Farusa method, as happened in Terran's Crown, being just send the coral capuchin to lift the object off of someone and then run off.
Yep. Rin has trained in sleight of hand up a bunch of ranks entirely for Farusa, who has a racial bonus.
Did Rin ever actually roll sleight of hand, or she's only trained it for?
I don't think so. I think
Farusa?
she only trained it for
Farusa. Yeah.
Farusa is also like a Pilferer familiar, which adds half Rin's level to sleight of hand. It has a major racial bonus to sleight of hand, and has maximum ranks in sleight of hand. So all of this means that Farusa's sleight of hand is very high.
Yes. So you guys were able to grab the ring of the Iron Skull from Milksop Morton.
That's right. And that was supposed to show us where the Brine Banshee had sunk, because nobody even knew exactly where it was under the water. It glows if you get close.
It's one of those type of things, yeah.
And then you told me that if we had actually gone after Milksop Morton, that his ship's figurehead comes to life.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other things.
A bunch of other stuff happens.
Because he's
if you
actually
do.
like a mage again, and we just didn't.
Yeah, you totally like.
do
He had
that.
like this screaming satyr wooden figurine that comes and attacks you and all these things. But no, you guys were just like yoink. So you guys headed
We're
off.
pirates.
Yeah, I mean,
We don't play fair.
So you guys headed off after the Brian Banshee, and eventually you were able to follow the ring of the Iron Skull, and follow the course, and you found off the coast of a couple of islands, where the ocean wasn't too deep. You saw the shipwreck down below. But this area wasn't perfectly safe because of course no area is going to be perfectly safe.
Wasn't this the one where we got attacked, and then after being attacked, there was an even deeper place where we got attacked again?
Where you got attacked by the merfolk druid?
There was the merfolk
Yeah.
shark druid. That was
Yes.
the first thing, but then there was a giant sea monster also after the merfolk shark druid, right?
Yeah, I think so. Cause there was giant jellyfish.
And then there was
And then
an
there was
enormous
Blackwater.
sea monster,
Then there was
right?
a giant Blackwater charter that attacked you guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. It was just this giant sea monster. It was like there were so many things that
And it's like dark forest and enemies attacked you,
this
and also
ecosystem
the
of
ship
things.
was cursed, and it's
yeah,
like
that
why?
all lived right next to the Brian Banshee.
Oh yeah, there was also an aboleth that lived out
Yes, there was also an aboleth. I remember that because we just killed it very quickly before it could dominate
Yeah.
someone.
I feel like the story of aboleths in our games has usually been there was an aboleth and then it died horribly almost immediately.
It's usually like there's an aboleth.
Mm-hmm.
There were a ton of illusory walls because they're freaking permanent.
Yes.
And by the time we got to the aboleth, we killed it as fast as we could.
Yeah. Well, I just remember the one from when we did From Shore to Sea.
Oh yeah, when we did that to show off the snowball spell's efficacy in a
Yes.
cherry-picked adventure by the GM where everything was resistant to cold.
Everything was resistant
And
to
there were
cold.
lots of fight with massive numbers of things instead of
And
single
everyone
targets.
and everyone except the character who had Snowball was a
There were two other characters
yes.
who were NPC classes.
Yes, that's correct.
Just to see if a snowball
There was a
sorcerer could
warrior
basically
there was a
solo.
warrior, an adept, and a snowball sorcerer.
He was not, Captain Jack is not a warrior, he is an expert.
Oh, sorry, he's an expert. You're right, an expert.
He did not have full base attack bonus.
Yes.
You're overrating him.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
He lied and said he was a
Wait,
knight.
no, who was the guy with the sheep?
Oh, there were two experts because we had
Yeah.
a party of 4.
That's right.
There were two experts. There was a shepherd who just had a bunch of sheep and no other abilities. There's Captain Jack who, oh yeah, we also weren't even allowed to take any feats except for feats that boasted skills
Yes.
or traits with the NPC characters. You were the adept, and then
No, yeah, there were
Cat
definitely
was the one with sheep, and then I was the expert who Captain Jack who had the trait from Knights of the Inner Sea that was fake knight. That's why you thought he was a knight. It was
That's right.
it gave like a +4 bonus on pretending that you're any kind of knight. So he kept telling people that he was like a Hell Knight or an Eagle Knight or other kinds of knight. He was not any kind of knight, Linda. He was an expert.
Oh, okay, fair. And what was the fourth character? Was the
sorceress.
Sorcerer. Yeah, sorceress. Right, of course.
She was the snowball sorceress whose only thing that she did was snowball.
Yeah, no, I remember Kat was there that day. That was actually the
day of the Boston
That was
Marathon
the day of the Boston
bombing.
Marathon bombing, and we were over at our friend's house playing this game, and
He lived near us, but Kat actually needed to take the tea, and so she could not leave.
yeah, so we like could have walked but didn't really want to. We also just kind of wanted to stick together, so it was supposed to just be like a short session and something we did over
We
multiple
did the
sessions.
entire Shore to Sea.
We did the entire Shore to Sea. And while we were kind of like sitting there and watching, that was a really weird and scary day.
Yep. The end result though was that the aboleth was one-shotted by Snowball. There was also a giant tentacle monster was so powerful that you just fight the tentacles because the main monster was just like 10 levels higher than you and you don't have to fight it, which we killed with Snowball.
Yes.
Everything else we killed with Snowball. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Although Captain Jack did okay as an expert.
Yeah, he did.
Like he helped.
I mean, when you can only take skill feats, like you actually are pretty good at skills.
Yeah. And, like he fought with like his expert weapons. He was okay with them. All right. Anyway, tangent aside, let's
Mm-hmm.
do it. Let's do it. Arcane 49 Squirrel.
Arcane 49 Squirrel, indeed.
Okay. It's not as steppy as Mark's the Squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, and then it came time to
So what did we find in there other than their awesome steering wheel, which was like one of the main things?
other than their awesome steering wheel. I mainly remember their awesome steering wheel.
Like that was definitely what caught Rin's attention. She
Yeah,
wanted that.
there was like a ring of force shield.
We already had an awesome hammock and
Yeah.
like an awesome captain's chest and some other.
Yeah,
things,
well, because they had like the magical Jalazar's wheel, which is a source of most of the ship's reputation, and they had like a ring of force shield and several things of plunder, and the ship was obviously completely wrecked and in the bottom of the seas. So like, you're not going to be able to really salvage it from that. And this ship, as you I don't believe were aware at the time, was a victim of Hirgenzosk.
We did not know that.
Yes.
I in fact did not know that until the moment you just said it right now.
Yes. Well, it was actually a victim of Hirgenzosk. That was why the Brian Banshee sank.
Well, they should have been a pen pal of Hirgenzosk instead of a victim.
Yeah, like you guys wound up being pen pals of Hirgenzosk, but that didn't happen just yet. You hadn't met him yet. I mean, but it's good that you had an emissary of the sea when you did.
Mm-hmm.
So let's.
Everyone makes fun of Pontus.
Yee.
All right. So we dealt with the Brian Banshee, but what was next?
Next up you were looking for you saved the Tengu smuggler Corlan from.
But did we do that next? Or did we not do that next because you're just going through the...
Saving Corlan.
Yeah, I guess we did that next.
I'm not just going through the AP, thank you very much. I'm going through a
But
combination
saving
of
the Tengu smuggler Corlan was something that we did after Tessa started us on some of the later Part 3 stuff.
Did I not put things in the right order then? Or maybe...
No, hold on. That means that either we didn't get XP for doing that stuff to mess around with Harrigan, or we actually did do it back when we became a free captain.
I think maybe you did do it back when you became a free captain.
Did we really?
That
did
early?
we already have Peppery at that point? We would have used her.
I don't think you had... Wait, when did you get Peppery? It's not listed here, so... It must have been in one of these interstitial areas, so let's just talk about that now.
Okay, so at some point, which we now can't remember exactly when, but I thought was the second time we went to Port Peril, not the time we became a free captain, but the next time.
It could have been right after Goral Ray, because that's a massive pile of XP.
Yeah, but Goral Ray was, oh yeah, I guess it could have been, but Goral Ray, I think, earned all of that XP because it had some.
Or what about Brian Banshee? Maybe it's part of that.
It could have been. Anyway, so we went back, and Harrigan was there with the Wormwood.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was Harrigan there with the Wormwood, but Harrigan sort of knew that we were there too. So, oh wait, hold on. Yeah, so he actually sent Cocky
Tarun, the cabin girl, yeah.
To try to attack us and told her that she had to. And we managed to defeat that ambush that was made against us.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, what we did was we got in contact with the rest of the people who were from the Wormwood, found out that Harrigan had gone completely off the deep end and into the Dagon end, which is very far.
I mean, that is into the deep end, off the deep end for sure.
It's so far from the shallow end.
Yes, it is.
So what we did was we made sure that like we had already supposedly left, so it couldn't have been us, and then staged a fake situation where that guy who was after us from the Legendary Games from Terrence Crown, I mentioned this in a previous episode. Captain Scraggs, like screwed over Harrigan, blew up, like exploded part of the Wormwood, and visibly killed a significant portion of Harrigan's crew who had come to defect over to us. Before Scragg's person also died in the explosion. But, like, everyone could see that Scragg's person just blew them up and they were dead. And, like, knocked everything into the sea. Like, you could see, like, the force of the explosion knocked everything off into the sea. And then that was what the illusion was.
Yes.
So, Yeah, there were like 100 witnesses that this happened, and we had just taken all those people onto our ship, and we used like non-detection and stuff in case someone tried to use divinations to find them. And that's how we got back a bunch of people, which we did not know at the time, saved Cutthroat Grog from a incredibly horrible fate.
Yes.
That any of you who played the AP may have found her in that fate, but we actually accidentally saved her from that because
Yes.
we were just concerned that Harrigan was going to do horrible things to these people, and so we got everybody out while seeming to blow them up. And that is what caused Harrigan to be just like, Scrags, you're going to die. And
he went and killed Scrags.
Yes. So it can be a lot of fun when you play a Legendary Games add-on adventure to your adventure, but it can be even more satisfying when one of your BBEGs plays the Legendary Game adventure for you.
And kills the other
and defeats the other person who's after you.
Yes.
And weakens himself to do so.
And then you wind up with your disguised ally, with disguised former shipmates on your ship instead.
So we got like Grok and Peppery and Cocky and just a lot of the others who were named characters.
Scrimshaw, I remember.
Yeah, because Scrimshaw wasn't with us before.
He
wasn't one of the ones who came with us before. Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, we got everyone who was still there essentially.
I remember because he was good friends with Aram.
Yeah. So yeah, that happened at some point, but anyway. So let's point out that while the Brine Banshee was just a random thing that we did for fun, by the time we got to the Tengu, I'm pretty sure that we had been hired by, or not hired, but suggested by Tessa Fairwind, that we deal with a situation that had come up, which seemed like, and it seemed like that situation was that something Cheliac something.
Yeah, well, because normally you are normally you're put on the trail of the Brine Banshee by Dindrian of a priestess at the Temple of Calistria. But I had
from the House of Stolen
Kisses. But I had the PCs gain that lead from another location.
Actually, no.
Didn't I?
No, we did hear about it from them.
You did hear it from her?
I told you it was some random person who told us about it. Was her.
Was it her? Okay.
Yeah, we went to the House of Stone Kisses because Tessa told us to come to her island. That's right. And Dindrian said that. In fact, we may have, done that as a favor for her that she needed in order for her... It's some yak shaving.
Yeah, well, this was the plus yak I literally wrote yak shaving a couple of points down, but...
yes. So maybe it was just it was either a hot tip or a yak shaving because she did require some things because we needed some things because yak shaving.
Yeah, I think actually...
for anyone who doesn't know, yak shaving is the term for when you have a quest to do X, but in order to do X, you find out you have to go talk to these other people who then say, oh no, we won't talk to you, you have to do Y. And then in order to do Y, you go over somewhere else, and they're like, oh, yeah, you want to do Y? You can't do that unless you do Z.
I think, actually, what happens next with this series of quests is complex enough. I want to take a little time to review my notes and stuff like that before we go into it.
But the main thing is that Tessa Fairwind told us, something is off. It seems like the Chalice Navy is doing something weird. We think they may have, information or be planning to go through the eye, or I don't know what they're doing. You might be able to get on their trail, and I think she told us that. Did she tell us about the Tengu?
Yeah, I think so. Let's look that up for next time and say goodbye.
It's actually a fairly complicated situation, so let's untangle it, because also Linda likes to make things have a little bit more intrigue even than the original, so that they are a little more complicated. So we should figure out what she did. So. Yeah, there we are. We've now finished all those little side quests. We're really deeply getting into actual book 3 now. At which point, there are fewer side quests after this, mostly because we tricked Harrigan into doing one thing.
Yes.
So, bye YouTube. See you next time.
Bye.